The night of June 12, 1994, Los Angeles held its breath. A quiet neighborhood in Brentwood became the center of a nightmare that would grip America like nothing before. 2 lives brutally taken. No witnesses. No clear answers. And at the center of it all, a man the world thought they knew. A football legend. A Hollywood personality. A household name. But as the sirens faded and the investigation began, one question echoed across the country. Was O.J. Simpson a grieving ex-husband, or a killer hiding in plain sight? What followed wasn't just a murder case. It became a cultural storm. A courtroom drama that blurred the lines between justice, celebrity, and truth itself. This is the story of the O.J. Simpson case, a case that still divides opinion decades later. It began with a horrifying discovery. Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ron Goldman were found outside Nicole's home, victims of a violent attack that shocked even seasoned investigators. The scene was brutal, chaotic, and deeply personal. Almost immediately, suspicion turned toward Nicole's ex-husband, O.J. Simpson. Their relationship had been troubled. Reports of domestic disputes and prior incidents painted a picture far from the glamorous image the public had seen. Detectives began connecting dots, and soon, all eyes were on Simpson. Then came the moment that turned suspicion into a national spectacle. Instead of surrendering to police, Simpson fled. What followed was one of the most surreal events in American history. A slow-speed chase down Los Angeles freeways, broadcast live to millions. Simpson sat in the back of a white Ford Bronco, as police cars followed at a distance. The entire nation watched, glued to their screens, as if it were a movie. But this was real. Eventually, Simpson surrendered. And with that, the trial of the century began. The prosecution believed they had a strong case. Blood evidence linking Simpson to the crime scene. A glove found at his property. A timeline that seemed to place him exactly where he shouldn't have been. To them, it was clear. Simpson had both motive and opportunity. But the defense team had a different plan. Led by some of the most high-profile attorneys in the country, they didn't just fight the evidence. They attacked the system itself. They questioned how the evidence was collected, whether it had been contaminated, and whether racial bias played a role in the investigation. One moment would define the entire trial. The glove. Prosecutors asked Simpson to try it on in court. If it fit, it would be a powerful piece of evidence. But when Simpson struggled to put it on, the defense seized the moment. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. Those words echoed across the courtroom and into living rooms across America. The trial wasn't just about guilt or innocence anymore. It became a reflection of deeper tensions in society. Race, trust in law enforcement, and the power of celebrity all collided in one explosive case. If you're finding this story as gripping as it is unsettling, take a moment to subscribe to Shadow Files. Because stories like this aren't just history. They're reminders of how fragile the truth can be. As the trial went on, cracks began to appear in the prosecution's case. Questions about evidence handling. Doubts raised about key witnesses. The defense worked tirelessly to create reasonable doubt, and in a criminal trial, that's all they needed. After months of testimony, arguments, and media frenzy, the jury reached a verdict. Not guilty. The reaction was immediate and divided. Some celebrated, believing justice had been served. Others were stunned, convinced a guilty man had walked free. The courtroom may have delivered its decision, but the court of public opinion was far from settled. But the story didn't end there. In a later civil trial, Simpson was found liable for the deaths of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. The standard of proof was lower, but the outcome added another layer of complexity to an already tangled case. So what really happened that night? That question still lingers. One theory is the most straightforward. That Simpson, driven by jealousy and rage, committed the murders. Supporters of this theory point to the history of domestic issues, the physical evidence, and the timeline that places him at the scene. Another theory suggests the investigation itself was flawed beyond repair. That critical mistakes, whether accidental or intentional, tainted the evidence and made it impossible to reach a fair conclusion. In this view, the verdict wasn't about innocence, but about reasonable doubt. Then there are more fringe ideas. Some believe there may have been other individuals involved, or that key pieces of the story were never fully uncovered. While these theories often lack solid evidence, they persist, fueled by the many unanswered questions. The truth is, this case sits in a gray area that few others occupy. It's a case where facts, perception, and emotion are deeply intertwined. Where what people believe often depends on what they trust more: the evidence, or the system that presented it. Even today, the O.J. Simpson case is studied, debated, and referenced. It changed how trials are televised. It reshaped the relationship between media and justice. And it showed just how powerful a narrative can be when the entire world is watching. But beyond the headlines and the courtroom drama, it's important to remember what started it all. 2 lives lost. 2 families forever changed. In the noise of the spectacle, that reality can sometimes be forgotten. As we look back, the case forces us to ask difficult questions. Can fame influence justice? Can a trial truly be fair when it becomes entertainment? And most importantly, can we ever really know the truth? If this story left you questioning what you thought you knew, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Shadow Files. Because the deeper you dig into these cases, the more you realize that the truth is rarely simple. And sometimes, it's buried where no verdict can ever reach.